Most advice is just people describing what worked for their specific situation and calling it. Okay, yeah, I mean this makes. Let's read the comments. Prove me wrong. Okay, there are no such. There is no description. I think the question in itself is the statement in itself is sufficient. Most advice is just people describing what worked for this specific situation and calling it universal. Let's see the comments. This is why just be yourself is such a trash advice. In my opinion, work great for the charismatic extrovert giving it but tells you nothing useful. True. Yes, it's categorically trash advice. If a person is psychopath who wants to hurt people, then be yourself is absolutely the opposite of what you want to tell them. Okay. So be yourself is not a good advice. I think we can all agree on that. But in some situations you should be yourself. Maybe, to your close ones. So I don't know, like no one, I think most people are never themselves. They always have some sort of a mask. But yeah, this advice is not good. This advice doesn't work all the time. For example, if you're writing a book and if you're a bad writer and somebody told you, just be yourself. But I don't think so. He's talking about when the person is giving you this advice, just be yourself. They are usually not referring to, your writing skills. They are usually referring to what you want to speak about. In that manner, be yourself. But I think, you cannot be yourself all the time, and you cannot be yourself even less number of times. It is very, very difficult to be yourself in most situations. If you are a nervous person and you are going on a stage, maybe the person who is saying to you just be yourself is saying to you not be nervous, but the words that the person is using is just be yourself. So it is a very generic advice that doesn't mean a lot. So you are critiquing that advice is a generalization, right? Ironic. Okay. Well, not totally ironic. How is it ironic? OP didn't post advice. They posted an observation conclusion. Correct. I might be wrong, but I think the post is generalization about advice. Damn, you're correct. Well, yeah, to some extent it is generalization about advice. No, it is not. Okay. They are not posting generalized advice though. They have posted a generalized statement about generalized advice. The criticism is not about generalization in general. It is specifically about generalized advice. And from what I can ascertain only about generalized advice, which is a clear specific subset of. Okay, I think there is no irony here, but there is no point in, debating about that. I think let's move on. So why do people keep asking for it? Okay, yeah, this is a good question. Let's read the statement again. Okay. Most advice is just people describing what worked for their specific situation and calling it universal. It's true. To the most extent, I agree with this statement. But most of the advice is actually too generalized that it will work for you. Like, for example, self-discipline is a advice that you should maintain and you should have a discipline. Now, of course, this will work for everybody. But discipline about what? So it doesn't really solve your question. Discipline is good, but then you can ask, why are you not disciplined? And then they will give you reasons why are you not disciplined. And that is, so most advice, like most reasons that they give you why you are not disciplined are wrong. Maybe you have some medical issue. Maybe you have some, you're going through depression, maybe, and that's why you are not disciplined. Maybe you are missing some, maybe you are doing a job in night shift, so you are not disciplined in the day because you are tired all the time. So nobody knows why you are not disciplined. But be disciplined is a good advice. But then why are you not disciplined is they don't know about. And so that advice generally fails, at the face value. Okay, let's move on. Yes, I agree. In over 1,000 sessions of soul journeys, what does soul journey mean? I facilitated soul journeys. What this guy is doing. Every approach is different, and sometimes what works for one is not working for another. I hope sessions of soul journeys. This phrase is metaphorical. I hope, but I cannot be sure. He might literally mean this. I don't know. Let's move on. I think it's a good idea to put advice into terms of what worked for you. Then they can take what works for them out of it. Yeah, if you want it universal, it it can't be doing the specific thing, but rather just doing in contrast to not doing and just think in circles and complain. I don't know. On the other hand, some parameters of their specific situation might be applying to your situation, so you can use part of the advice. No, maybe if you just take what you need from advices you hear instead of using them as gospel is the way to. If you think about it, the whole youth is following some kind of advice, so when we grow older we just become pickier. For all things there is a way to go, but sometimes we got to build our path and follow our own advice. Just my 2 cents. People these days are quick to speak without really thinking things through. I agree with this completely. I am an advocate for the freedom of speech, but people should put some deeper thought behind them. I completely agree with this, man. People these days are quick to speak without really thinking things through. We often fail to consider all the variables involved. Instead, people base their opinions solely on their own experiences, not realizing that every individual and situation is unique. I disagree with this. Every individual is not unique. Every situation is not unique. Maybe I would say that situation might be unique in some ways, but every individual is not unique. What I have been observing and this is I've been observing from during and after COVID is I can tell what these people think about other issues if I just know his opinion about one issue. Like people are generally nowadays are falling into buckets, and that's a very dangerous thing for the society and the way we are moving, because individuality is dying out. So this is a very dangerous thing we are going through because of lot of factors, and we can discuss that in other videos. Let's move on and complete this comment for now. Small details can completely change the outcome or perspective on a situation. Sometimes it is true. It's important to observe people and assess the value of their advice. If someone tends to blurt out the first thing that comes to mind without much thought, they are likely oversimplifying things and their advice might not be worth relying on. I completely agree with this. Even if their advice helps you in the short term, it is well thought out and could lead to outcomes similar to theirs or even worse. I agree. So this is a good comment overall. I think I agree with the 75-80%, or you can say that I agree with the soul of this comment, what they really want to say. I got the point, and I think I do agree with all this. I just want to say one thing. I was listening to one motivational seminar and on YouTube, and what I observed is people are asking question to the speaker, and they are not even telling their whole situation. They are generalizing everything, and they are telling their problem in this generalized fashion, and then this motivational speaker is giving them answers in this generalized fashion. So I don't think so. Do you really get anything out of this generalized question and generalized answer? You have to be specific about your problem, so other person can give you specific answers. But I think even the motivational speaker is not interested in giving specific answers because it will take time. You have to analyze the situation. You have to probably write something about it. You have to write pros and cons. Maybe you have to analyze situation from different angles. Maybe there are some budget issues that you have to deal with. Maybe you have to figure out how will you get enough money to do one thing or two thing. Maybe there are multiple goals the person is struggling between, and those goals are very different in nature. But no, nothing. He will ask you the generalized question, and then speaker will answer in a generalized way, and everyone is happy, and people are clapping about it. And I don't know, at the end of the day, when you go home and you think about it, I think how many times we think about it. I think we don't even think about what we have listened and what we have read. So, you have to think deeply. And by think deeply, you have to write down what is going on in your mind. Or, you received some advice and then you have to write down what advice you have received. Have you even understood what the person has to say? And usually when you write down the things, you realize that the motivational speakers usually are saying the things in circles, and you can't do anything of substance out of it. You can't perform any action out of it. And it's amazing how it works out. Let's read more comments. Or to put it in a different way, most people don't understand the difference between anecdote and evidence. Entire industries are dependent on this. Okay, got it. Yes, that's why we have licensed therapists. Yup. Have you heard about self-application? I have not. I believe the key to your existence is understanding different. Key to your existence. I don't think so. It is a key to your. I do not believe that the brain is the mind. So as much as senses are, because I see in and out as the two greatest function in reality, and that is simply because nothing within it can move without it. Okay, I don't know what it. Let's just ignore this. But how would you expect someone to offer help? Would you prefer them to advise you without any prior background knowledge? I think the important part, though, is realizing people can suggest different methods, but only you can decide the right one for the desired outcome. So I think we are done.